Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's look up for a second. Way up. We're talking about those metal roofs you see more and more.
Hmm.
They look great. They promise durability, maybe even, help with energy bills. But you have to wonder, what's the real story?
They definitely look impressive, don't they? That idea of a roof that, well, could basically last forever.
Exactly. But look, it's a huge part of your house, maybe your biggest investment. So you really want to know, what are the potential problems?
Okay.
So for you listening in, that's our mission today. We've done the digging, looked at the info, and we're going to pull out the important stuff about potential issues with metal roofs. Think of it as a heads up.
Yeah, we looked at the common problems, the pros and cons overall, and even some like key things you should probably ask yourself before you even consider metal.
Okay, so sorting through all that, what jumped out? What's like the number one biggest potential headache?
Oh, hands down, it's the installation. I mean, the sources we looked at were really, really clear on this. A bad install.
Yeah.
That's the main trigger for, well, a whole bunch of problems later on.
Right, like a domino effect nobody wants on their roof. So, okay, if an installation goes wrong, what kind of mistakes are we talking about? What typically
Well,
happens?
a few things, actually. One is just incorrect fastener replacement. You know, the screws or clips, if they're not in the exact right spot or not tightened correctly, they create weak points.
Ah, well,
Misaligned panels, too, that's another big one.
yeah.
Leaves gaps, and water finds gaps.
Hmm.
And then there's the layer underneath the underlayment. Super important. If it's the wrong kind or just not put down perfectly, it just won't stop moisture getting through to the structure.
And those mistakes, they usually show up as leaks, right? That's the homeowner nightmare scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the research points to like bad sealing around things sticking through the roof vents, chimneys, that sort of thing, and the flashing, those metal bits that direct water away. If that's done poorly, that's a prime spot for leaks.
Huh.
What's really interesting is you could have most of the roof done perfectly, but just one bad seal around a little vent pipe, that can
Yeah.
mess up the whole thing.
Oh.
And then the fasteners themselves, metal moves, right? It
Yeah.
expands and contracts with heat and cold. If the fasteners weren't put in right, that movement can actually work them loose over time.
Ah, that expansion and contraction thing. Yeah, we definitely need to dig into that more. But sticking with leaks, you mentioned underlayment, but even insulation. How does insulation cause leaks?
Oh, but think of the underlayment as like the last defense, yeah. If that's bad, any water getting past the metal goes straight to the wood.
Right.
Now, insulation, its main job is temperature and sound, sure. But if you don't have enough, sometimes you can get condensation forming on the underside of the metal panels,
Mm.
especially if temperatures swing a lot.
Oh,
And over time, that dampness, that moisture, it can cause corrosion or find its way into the structure.
man, it really makes you realize this isn't something you tackle on a weekend, is it? You need someone who really gets metal roofs. It's totally different from shingles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, the sources were crystal clear.
yeah.
Hire a pro roofer who has, specific proven experience with metal. It's essential
Why is that experience so critical?
because they understand that movement, the expansion and contraction we keep mentioning. Their whole technique has to account for it.
Okay, so a bad installation is problem number one. But what about, just wet weather? How does rain, snow, all that impact these roofs?
Well, extreme weather can definitely find any weak spots, that's for sure. Heavy rain is going to test those seals and flashing we talked about.
Makes sense.
But the research also mentions snow load. Lots of heavy snow, especially on flatter parts of a metal roof. That puts a lot of strain on the seams, the connections.
Mm.
And then you've got freeze-thaw cycles. Water gets in tiny cracks, freezes, expands. You know the drill. It can cause damage over time if things aren't sealed up tight.
And okay, let's talk about the noise. I've heard people say metal roofs can sound like a drum kit in a hailstorm.
Yeah, that's a valid point and definitely something for you to think about. Our sources do confirm noise can be a factor, especially if there isn't good insulation right under the metal to kind of dampen the sound.
So if you've got bedrooms right under the roof.
Definitely something to consider, yeah.
Okay, we talked about leaks from bad installs, but can a roof that was put in perfectly still develop leaks later on, say years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, even a great installation isn't totally bulletproof forever, right? One thing is potential corrosion around the fasteners. Maybe the wrong type was used or the coating wears off over time.
Okay.
The panels themselves, they can shift slightly over many years
Yeah.
because of all that heating and cooling, that thermal cycling.
Right, that movement again.
And like we touched on it, those seals around vents, skylights, chimneys, they just don't last forever. Eventually, they can degrade and let water in.
So it sounds like it's not quite install it and forget it forever. Maybe a bit of checkup now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sources really stress the value of regular inspections, maybe, once a year,
Yeah.
just to catch small things before they become big, expensive problems.
Right. Let's switch gears to one of the big selling points, lifespan. You hear numbers like 40, 50, even 70 years. Is that realistic?
That potential lifespan, it's definitely a huge plus, but the research is pretty clear. Getting that kind of longevity really hangs on, number one, that proper installation.
There it is again.
Yep. And number two, just, proper maintenance over the years. It's not automatic.
Well, the type of metal itself matters. Steel versus aluminum, for example, they handle corrosion differently. Your climate, obviously lots of rain, salt air near the coast, that makes a difference.
And the quality of the coatings, the paint, finish on the metal, that's vital for stopping rust and just making the whole thing last longer.
So kind of like anything, you get what you pay for with materials and you got to look after it. But the sources do say metal is generally tougher than asphalt shingles, right? Assuming it's installed correctly.
That's the key caveat, yeah.
Yeah.
When installed right, metal's just inherently strong and resilient. It makes for a very long-lasting roof.
Okay, we keep circling back to it, this expansion and contraction. Can we just focus on that for a minute? Why is it such a big deal for metal?
Absolutely. It's just basic physics, right? Metal heats up, it expands, it cools down, it contracts every day, every season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one single spot might not move much, but across a whole roof, those tiny movements add up to real force.
Okay.
So if the system isn't designed for that movement, that's when you get those loose fasteners we talked about, maybe panels start to warp or buckle.
Mm-hmm.
Basically stress on the whole system that can lead to leaks and other issues.
So how do the pros handle that? What's the solution?
Well, the research points mainly to standing seam systems. You've probably seen them, the ones with the raised ribs.
Yeah, I think so.
In those systems, the panels are designed to sort of float. They can move independently without breaking the seal. The fasteners are usually hidden. They don't go right through the main panel surface.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, it allows for that thermal movement without stressing everything out.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we've hit installation issues, weather, leaks, that crucial expansion-contraction point. What about just general downsides, things you should know going in?
Well, the first one for most people is probably the cost, the upfront cost. Our sources say it could easily be 2, maybe 3 times more than standard asphalt shingles. That's a big initial number.
Definitely a hurdle.
Another thing is denting. Big hail, falling tree limbs.
Yeah.
Metal is tough, but a hard enough impact can dent it.
Okay.
And finally, repairs or replacement. Our research suggests it can be a bit more complex. You're dealing with interconnected panels, not just swapping out a single shingle.
So it's that trade-off again, isn't it? Pay more now, hope for less hassle and a longer life later. Really depends on how long you plan to be in the house, I guess.
Exactly that. You
Yep.
have to weigh that initial cost against the potential long-term savings.
And we should probably circle back to the noise factor, too.
Right. Even with insulation, some people are just more sensitive to that sound of rain or hail. It's a personal thing to consider.
Good point. And what about rust? That word probably pops into people's minds with metal.
It's a fair question,
Yeah.
but the sources clarify. Not all metal roofs rust easily. Basic, uncoated steel. Yeah, that's vulnerable.
Okay.
But that's why they have protective coatings like galvanizing or galvanium. Those create a barrier. And then aluminum that just naturally resists rust much better.
So material choice is key there.
Absolutely. And maintaining those coatings if you have them.
Okay, let's revisit cost one more time. We know it's higher up front. Where do the long-term savings actually come from?
Our research highlights a few areas. First, less maintenance, generally, compared to other roofs. Second, fewer repairs over that long lifespan because it's more durable. Third, energy efficiency. Many metal roofs reflect heat well, potentially lowering cooling costs.
Interesting.
And then, obviously, just the fact that it lasts so much longer. You delay, or maybe even totally avoid, having to replace the whole roof again like you would with shingles.
Okay, so for you listening, if you're starting to think seriously about a metal roof, what are the really critical questions you need to ask yourself before jumping in?
Yeah, the sources had some good pointers. Definitely consider your local climate.
Right.
Are you in an area with major hailstorms, high winds, coastal salt spray?
Right, tailor the material to the environment.
Exactly. What kind of metal holds up best where you live? And also, can your house structure actually support it? Metal roofs have specific requirements.
And I guess how it looks matters too, right? For most people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, our research is more on the practical stuff, but curb appeal, how you feel about the look, that's huge. And maybe the biggest piece of advice from the sources: talk to a good, reputable roofing contractor, someone with that specific metal experience we keep mentioning.
Get professional advice.
Definitely. They can look at your specific house, your budget, what look you want, and give you personalized advice. Help you figure out if metal really is the best choice for you, or maybe something else.
Okay, so let's try and boil this all down. What's like, the essential message from this deep dive into potential metal roof problems?
I think the absolute core message is metal roofs have great benefits, durability, longevity, maybe energy savings, but getting the installation done right is completely critical. It's the foundation for everything else.
Mm,
Bad installation, that is by far the main reason things go wrong.
right. It's not enough just to buy good material. You need the expertise to put it on
Right.
correctly. And probably wise to keep those potential downsides in mind, too. The initial cost, maybe the noise, and weigh it all up.
Exactly. You got to look at the whole picture, the upfront cost
Yeah.
versus the potential performance and savings down the road.
So thinking about that long lifespan, the potential savings, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other big long-term things we invest in for our homes might deserve the same level of really careful research and getting solid professional advice? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.